Ground Forces has become a staple of War Thunder's DNA ever since its introduction in May 2014. Myself, like many of War Thunder's player base, were instantly hooked when this edition was added, and have spent numerous hours and money on the game. Each major update has brought new and exciting things to the game mode. These range from the various new ground vehicles to the introduction of attack helicopters, and new game mechanics like CCIP bombing and guided munitions.
We need to put more pressure on the enemy. They're winning.
As of update Red Skies, 7 of the 9 nations in-game have access to at least manually guided missiles. But that's really all they are, just manually guided. With more modern vehicles being added to the game, both in the air and on the ground, these missiles, albeit incredibly effective, are dated. In this video, I aim to discuss the various precision-guided munitions that can be available to all nations in War Thunder, the aircraft that use them, and how they can be implemented properly into the game. I would just like to point out that I have attempted to get enough information about these weapons to produce this video, but if you believe there is any incorrect information, please do let me know in the comments and I will happily correct it. So, as of Red Skies, we have 3 nations that have access to some form of precision guided munition, or PGM for short. We've got America, Germany, and the USSR. Currently, America and Germany are the only ones that have access to the US-made AGM-65 Maverick, a very accurate air-to-ground missile, or AGM for short. In-game we have the A and B variants of this missile, which have electro-optical guidance. This type of seeker is basically a TV camera that locks onto the vehicle and will guide itself towards the target. It's a fairly simple design. The downside to such a system is that it sees with a black and white TV image, so you are unable to accurately use this weapon at night or in low visibility conditions. More modern variants of this missile have either laser or infrared guidance, which increases its performance and lethality. At this stage, we do not have any information about these more modern variants coming to the game, but I am sure it is only going to be a matter of time. It wasn't just Western nations that used TV-guided missiles either. Both the USSR and China developed their own ones. Unfortunately, I was unable to dig up any information about China's missiles, but the Soviets definitely had a handful of different models. The following are just an example of what I think could be added to War Thunder. But first, we will cover the aircraft that could operate the AGM-65 Maverick. Great Britain could have the Harrier 2 GR7 and the Royal New Zealand Air Force A4K Kahu. I reckon that the GR7 would be a really good addition after the Harriers and the Jaguar that's already in the tech tree, and then the A4K Kahu would be an awesome addition as a premium vehicle for the British lineup. Italy could see the AV-8B Harrier 2 and the AMX International AMX. Sweden could get the AJ-37 Viggen. And Germany not only used Mavericks on their F4F Phantom, but also on the Alpha Jet. Now this was a joint project with France, but my research shows that the French Alpha Jets were only used for training purposes. This could still be added to the French tree though, by the means of the close support version used by the Egyptian Air Force, which did use Mavericks. And finally, the nation that actually made the weapon, the US of A. They have a wide selection of aircraft that use this AGM, with quite a few already in the game. But the one I know a lot of people are after is the A-10 Thunderbolt 2. Please do keep in mind that there are a lot of other aircraft from these nations that use Mavericks. For those wanting to know, I have a list of them in the description. The USSR could see the MiG-27, which is pretty much the ground attack version of the recently added MiG-23, but then also have the Su-25 Frogfoot. You know if they add the A-10, they have to add the Su-25. Both of these aircraft use the KH-25MT and the KH-29T, which are TV-guided versions of the missiles already in-game with the Su-17M2, which I will be talking about very soon. I think that pretty much covers it for TV missiles. These will probably become the new favourite for most pilots who have yet to try out the Mavericks in-game, as they are an easy-to-use fire-and-forget system. Next, we move on to Laser Guided Munitions, or LGM for short. Since their introduction in the mid-60s, LGMs haven't changed all that much. One thing that has been significantly upgraded over the years is the targeting pod. Now, a targeting pod is a device that is used to identify and illuminate, or quote-unquote paint, as it's more commonly known, a target on the ground using a laser beam, which the LGMs will lock onto and make their way to the target. Early targeting pods didn't have the ability to designate their own targets, and were simply called laser spot trackers, which, as the name implies, spots a laser and tracks it. This meant that an aircraft carrying LGMs relied on either someone on the ground to paint the target, or in very early cases with the F-4 Phantoms over Vietnam, have the weapons systems officer point a handheld laser designator out the side of his cockpit window to guide the LGMs onto the target. Yeah, that actually happened. But a proper targeting pod would allow the pilot or WSO to control a TV camera which is attached to the pod and illuminate the target like you would do with an attack helicopter already in game. Early targeting pods rely on a TV camera as a means for the pilot to designate targets. Later models included a high optical zoom and thermal imaging, just like the later models of the Maverick. Mounted on the Su-17M2 is the Projector 1, or Projector 1 in English. It was one of the first targeting pods to enter service, and at this stage, the only one in War Thunder. This aircraft has access to two types of laser-guided missiles in-game, the KH-25 and the KH-29L. These missiles have a laser seeker on the nose which allows them to guide towards a painted target. At this stage, Gaijin has set up these missiles to guide towards where you're flying, which is pretty accurate to what the Soviet pilots did. It just means you need to keep your sights over the target until it detonates. Even though the Projector 1 was a very early targeting pod, it still allowed the pilots to fly horizontally out of the way of most SPAAs while painting a target on the ground for the missile to hit. The MiG-27 and the Su-25 both have targeting pods built into the nose of the aircraft, eliminating the need for an external one. This means that they can carry more weapons than most of the others. The Jaguar A is an example of an aircraft already in-game that could utilize a targeting pod alongside a pair of AS-30L missiles, which are the exact same as the AS-30s already in-game, but with a laser seeker on the nose. Besides the Jaguar A, France could also have the Mirage F1 with the AS-30Ls. And that pretty much covers it for laser-guided missiles. There really aren't that many out there, but these missiles are great to use as you could still guide them in yourself or use a targeting pod to search for targets and destroy them from afar, making them very versatile. Now that we have covered the missiles, we can now move on to laser-guided bombs. LGBs are considered a cheaper alternative to missiles to perform just as well, if not better, depending on the situation. In most configurations as well, fixed-wing aircraft can carry at least double the number of LGBs than AGMs. There are numerous LGBs that have been both developed and deployed from nearly every single nation in the game. The US developed the Paveway series of LGBs, which is the name of the laser guidance kit that gets installed over their dumb bombs, which most are already in-game with many nations. The US had the F-4E Phantom II carry up to 18 GBU-12 Paveway bombs. Guiding these LGBs onto target was the Pavespike targeting pod. Great Britain also used the Pavespike fitted to the Blackburn Buccaneer, which carried the same bombs. France could have the Mirage F1 with the Paveway series and their Atlas targeting pod. The USSR used the KAB-500L laser-guided bombs with their MiG-27 and Su-25. China has the Q-5F Fantan, a variant of the one already in-game, carrying an indigenous targeting pod and LS-500J guided bombs. I believe that in one of the major updates to come this year, we will see the introduction of laser-guided munitions. There are many aircraft in War Thunder that are capable of equipping LGMs, they just need a targeting pod to make them work. LGMs can open up new mechanics to War Thunder like buddy designation, where a friendly aircraft can designate a target while other aircraft go in and release their bombs or missiles. Now, for some of you who have been keeping count, you would have noticed that I've yet to mention anything for Japan. The main reason why is because the Japanese self-defense force is, well, it's a self-defense force. They don't really go on the offensive, so they don't need to have laser or TV guided munitions. Instead, they have their own locally developed infrared guidance kits that they fit to their bombs. Once these kits have been fitted, the bombs are known as GCS-1. Now, GCS-1s are primarily designed to engage seaborne targets, but there is enough information out there that shows them being used for ground-based targets as well. This would make Japan as a nation even more unique compared to the others. These IR-guided bombs could be equipped on the Mitsubishi F1 and the F4EJ, which are both already in-game. The only other aircraft that could be equipped with them, besides the F4EJ Kai, is the F2 Viper Zero. But I'm pretty sure we're very far away from seeing that in-game. Now, these bombs might sound like they'd be more effective than laser-guided bombs as they'd be fire and forget, but I'm not too sure how Gaijin would be able to implement them. They'd require a target lock, much like heat-seeking air-to-air missiles. The way that I can see them being implemented into War Thunder is being used like your standard dumb bomb, but once they've been dropped, the heat seeker is activated and it hones in on its target. Picture the third-person bomb reticle you get when you're using the ballistic computer, but with a much larger diameter. Just drop that bad boy in the vicinity and watch those turrets pop. When I set out to make this video, I did not expect it to be so long, but I felt it was important to put in as much information as I could. I hope you've found this informative and have an idea of what you would like to see in Gaijin's fun and interactive ride. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to check the description for the list of aircraft that didn't make it into the video. And until next time, I'll see you in the next video.